There is something about the presence of God that changes everything. Not just the atmosphere, not just the mind, but the very fabric of a soul. You can't explain it. You can't manufacture it. You can't learn it in a book. It's something only the chosen carry. Brokenness is not something many seek, and yet, in the lives of those truly chosen by God, it is the first and most defining mark. It is not a punishment, nor a moment of divine rejection. It is, in fact, the opposite. It is the evidence that the hand of God has come near not to destroy, but to refine, to purify, to prepare a vessel for something holy. There is no anointing without breaking. There is no glory without surrender. Brokenness is the hidden forge in which the chosen are made. Those who carry this mark do not always speak of it. It is too sacred, too deep. It is not the kind of pain that one wears as a badge of honor. It is the kind of pain that brings one to their knees in silence. It is the midnight hour where tears fall, not from outer wounds, but from the shattering of self. It is the realization that strength, talent, ambition, none of these can carry the weight of the calling. Only surrender can. Only emptiness can hold the fullness of God. The breaking may come through loss, through rejection, through seasons of silence where heaven seems still, through disappointments so sharp they divide soul and spirit, and yet through it all God is near, always near. He is not absent in the breaking. He is the one allowing it, orchestrating it, and holding the pieces. For unless a seed falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it brings forth much fruit. The chosen must die to be made alive. Those who carry this mark walk differently. They no longer strive to be seen, because they have seen the face of God in their pain. They no longer seek the spotlight, because they have discovered that the secret place holds more glory than any stage. Brokenness has made them tender, softened them, stripped away all self-dependence. It has removed the sharp edges of pride and left only humility. They do not think less of themselves. They simply think of Him more. There is a beauty in a life broken by God, not the kind of beauty the world applauds, but a quiet beauty, a purity, an authenticity that cannot be faked. You can sense it when they pray, when they speak, when they weep for others. There is no performance in them, just presence, no manipulation, just meekness. They no longer need to be right or to be admired or to be understood. They have been with Him in the furnace, and that is enough. It is not a one-time breaking. It is a continual surrender, a daily laying down. The chosen are those who say, "Not my will, but yours be done." And they say it not just in public prayers, but in private decisions. They give up things others cling to. They walk away from opportunities others would fight for. They would rather be in His will than be celebrated. They would rather carry the cross than carry a crown. In the breaking there is a divine exchange. Their strength is replaced with His. Their wisdom is exchanged for revelation. Their plans dissolve into His purposes. And though it hurts, though the flesh cries out, though the soul feels the weight of the press, it is in this very place that the oil begins to flow. The oil of anointing, the oil that heals others, the oil that brings life. But it cannot be poured out until the vessel is crushed. Obedience in the secret place is one of the most overlooked yet vital marks of those who are truly chosen. It is not loud. It is not applauded. It does not draw crowds or gain recognition. But heaven watches. Heaven listens. In a world that chases performance and visibility, the chosen are those who obey when no one sees, when no one knows, and when no reward is promised. Their yes is quiet but powerful. It is not born out of fear of consequence, but out of deep love and reverence for the one who calls. This kind of obedience cannot be faked. It is not the result of rules or legalism. It flows from a heart that has been captivated by the presence of God. The chosen learn to say yes in the stillness, in the silence, in the waiting. They hear the whisper of the Holy Spirit and respond without needing explanation. Their steps are not calculated by personal gain, but by divine instruction. Even when it makes no sense, even when the path seems hidden, they follow because they trust the voice that speaks to them in the quiet. The secret place becomes their sanctuary. It is where the real battles are fought. It is where the flesh is crucified, where pride dies, where motives are purified. And it is in this unseen space that God measures the depth of a heart's obedience. Not in how they lead others, but in how they follow Him. Not in how they speak publicly, but in how they listen privately. There are moments when He asks them to lay something down, not because it is bad, but because it is not His best. And they obey, not out of obligation, but because their hearts have been trained to recognize His whisper over the noise. There are times the chosen are led to do things that others would call foolish. To give when it hurts, to stay when it's easier to run, to forgive when the wound is fresh, to love when they've been rejected. And they do it without needing credit, because their obedience is not for show. It is not performance, it is covenant. There are sacrifices no one will ever see, prayers no one will ever hear, tears no one will ever witness. But God sees it all. He records every yes in heaven. Obedience in secret is the foundation upon which public authority is built. It is what gives weight to their words. It is what gives heaven the legal right to trust them with more. Many desire power, but few desire the process that produces it. Obedience in the hidden place is that process. It refines. It stretches. It teaches the chosen how to hear God in the middle of confusion, how to stay the course when the road is unclear, how to stand still when everything inside wants to move. It is the obedience born of intimacy, not insecurity. The chosen have learned that one whisper from the Lord is more precious than 1,000 opinions. They don't need to be understood by people when they have been understood by God. They follow His leading even when it costs them relationships, status, opportunities and comfort. And they do not look back. Their hearts are set, their ears are open, their hands are surrendered. This obedience becomes their rhythm of life. It is not seasonal, it is constant. It flows from a well that never runs dry because it is filled not by duty, but by love. In the secret place, obedience is not delayed. It is immediate, because delay is often just a quiet form of rebellion. The chosen obey with urgency, not out of panic, but out of honor. When He speaks, they move. When He leads, they follow. Not because they understand everything, but because they trust Him with everything. Their obedience is not just an action, it is a posture. It is a lifestyle of saying yes before knowing the question. It is a life that is fully yielded, wholly aligned, and completely His. There is a fire that burns in the lives of those who have been truly chosen, and it is not a fire kindled by men. It is holy. It is from above. It does not flicker in the winds of emotion, nor is it dimmed by seasons of hardship. This fire is set ablaze by the Spirit of God Himself. It is not dramatic, not always visible to the natural eye, but it is unmistakable in the realm of the Spirit. It is a flame that consumes pride, devours compromise, and illuminates the presence of the living God wherever it goes. The chosen do not need to shout to carry power. Their fire speaks louder than their volume. There is a weight in their words that doesn't come from intellect but from intimacy. This fire is not something they perform, it is something they embody. You can feel it when they walk into a room, when they pray, when they speak with authority that only comes from time spent with God in secret. This is not charisma, it is not charm, it is the evidence of an encounter. The fire is not emotional hype, it is not stirred by applause or attention. In fact, it often grows stronger in silence, when no one is watching, when no one is listening. It is in the midnight hour when the chosen cry out to God and He responds with fire from heaven. This fire is holy because it is born in surrender. It begins where self ends. It ignites in the furnace of brokenness, where the soul has been stripped of all dependence on the flesh. It is the mark of one who has laid everything on the altar and said, "Consume it all." This fire makes them different. It sets them apart. They cannot be satisfied with routine religion or shallow spirituality. Their hunger is deeper, their thirst more intense, because they have tasted something real. And once you have experienced the holy fire of God, nothing else will ever be enough. The chosen are not content to carry titles without presence. They do not want ministry without oil, words without power, form without flame. The fire makes them dangerous to darkness. It exposes what is hidden. It brings light where there is confusion. It awakens what is asleep. The fire cannot be imitated. You cannot learn it. You cannot borrow it. You cannot fake it. It is either there or it is not. It is not personality. It is not giftness. It is not volume. It is the residue of the Spirit of God resting on a life that has been yielded without reservation. And when it burns, others around them begin to burn too. The fire spreads. It awakens heart. It convicts. It heals. It draws people not to themselves but to Jesus. The fire also purifies. It is not just for demonstration. It is for transformation. It goes deep into the soul and cleanses motives, intention, desires. It burns away selfish ambition, impure thoughts, and hidden sin. The chosen do not resist the fire. They welcome it. They ask for it. They know that without it, they are powerless. They know that their greatest effectiveness comes not from what they can do, but from how fully they have allowed God to consume them. There is a holy discomfort in those who carry the fire. They are restless in the face of spiritual complacency. They are burdened by what burdens God. Their hearts are heavy for souls. Their spirits are stirred by injustice, compromise, and lukewarm living. They cannot stand by and do nothing, because the fire within compels them to act, to pray, to weep, to go. It is not optional. It is the overflow of what has been ignited deep within them. Compassion is not a trait the chosen wear on the surface. It is a deep river that flows from the throne of God, passing through their hearts, touching everything in its path. It is not sentimentality. It is not pity. It is a divine empathy that causes them to feel what others feel, to carry burdens they did not create, to enter into suffering not as spectators but as participants. This compassion is not learned, it is imparted. It is born when the heart of God becomes one with the heart of his servant. Those who carry this mark cannot ignore pain. They do not walk past the broken. Their eyes are trained to see what others overlook. In a crowd, they sense the one who is hurting. In a conversation, they hear what is not being said. Their discernment is sharpened by love, not suspicion. They do not look at weakness with disdain, but with tenderness. The chosen understand that people are not problems to solve, they are souls to love. And so they love even when it costs, especially when it costs. Compassion has nothing to do with convenience. The chosen are often interrupted, inconvenienced, and burdened at strange hours. They will answer the call when others are asleep. They will weep in prayer for names they've never met. They are moved not by emotion, but by the Spirit. Their compassion does not draw attention to themselves. It points others to the one who heals, restores, and saves. They do not act out of a need to be seen. They act because love gives them no other choice. You will often find the chosen near the broken, not because they seek to fix them, but because they have walked through brokenness themselves. Compassion is forged in suffering. Those who have known pain are most able to recognize it in others. Their compassion carries weight because it is real. It is not manufactured or performative. It flows from their own wounds that God has healed. And now, those very places become wells of comfort for others. They carry the oil of mercy because they have stood in desperate need of it themselves. There is a gentleness in the chosen that disarms the hardest heart. They do not push people toward God with force. They draw them with kindness. Their voice calms storms. Their words breathe life. Their presence carries peace. They do not boast in what they know or flaunt their spiritual depth. They lower themselves. They listen more than they speak. They understand that compassion is not just in what you say, but in how you say it, and even more, in what you are willing to do when no one is watching. Compassion drives them to intercede. The chosen do not just say, "I'll pray for you." They actually pray, and when they do, they labor. Their prayers are not recitations, they are cries. They travail, they groan. They plead on behalf of others. They carry people in their spirits as a mother carries a child. And it is in those moments of private weeping that heaven moves. Their compassion becomes the catalyst for miracles, because love is the atmosphere in which the power of God flows most freely. The chosen are not selective in their compassion. They do not reserve kindness for those who agree with them or look like them. They love the outcast. They embrace the forgotten. They dignify the poor. Their hearts are not confined by cultural lines or political opinions. They are free to love because their hearts are anchored in the heart of God. They see through his eyes. They speak with his tone. They serve with his hands. Their compassion is costly. It exposes them. It stretches them. Sometimes it leaves them drained and misunderstood. But they continue because compassion has become who they are. They do not perform it. It flows from their new nature, shaped in secret, forged through fire, baptized in tears. They have become vessels of divine mercy in a world that desperately needs to remember what love looks like. There is a loneliness that follows those who are truly chosen. It is not the result of rejection alone, but of separation. It is not the loneliness of isolation for its own sake, but of consecration. When God sets someone apart for himself, he often removes them from the crowd, not because they are better, but because he desires to draw them deeper. The set apart are not called to blend in, and because of this, they often walk a path that few understand. The loneliness is not punishment, it is preparation. This loneliness teaches them to hear the whisper of God in the stillness. It is in the silence, when no one else is around, that their ears become attuned to the slightest movement of the Spirit. They learn to walk without applause. They learn to continue when encouragement is absent. They press forward without needing to be noticed. Their reward is not affirmation from others, but nearness to the one who called them. This loneliness is sacred. It is where intimacy is born. Those who are set apart often feel misunderstood even by those closest to them. Their choices are questioned. Their silence is misread. Their obedience looks strange. But they are not led by explanation, they are led by revelation. God does not call the chosen to be understood. He calls them to be obedient. They must walk by faith when others walk by sight. And in that walk they discover that the approval of man can never compare to the approval of heaven. The set apart often feel a longing they cannot describe, an ache that nothing in this world can satisfy. It is not depression, it is not emptiness, it is a homesickness for the eternal. They know too much of God to be satisfied with lesser things. They hunger for more, even when they do not have the words for it. They carry a restlessness, not because they are ungrateful, but because they are made for more than comfort. The spirit within them groans for deeper places. There are friendships they must release, not because they no longer love, but because the path has shifted. There are conversations they cannot engage in, environments they cannot remain in, atmospheres they must leave behind. This is the cost of being set apart. It is not always dramatic, often it is subtle, a quiet nudging of the spirit that says, "Come away," and they obey even when it hurts, even when it means walking alone. But in the loneliness, something beautiful happens. The chosen begin to find companionship in the presence of God. They talk to Him as friend to friend. They bring Him their thoughts, their pain, their wonder, their weakness. He becomes not just their God, but their confidant. They do not just worship Him, they walk with Him. This is the mystery of the loneliness of the set. Apart, it feels like emptiness at first, but it becomes fullness over time. This kind of loneliness breaks them free from dependence on people. It purifies their motives. It delivers them from needing constant reassurance. They stop asking, "Does anyone see me?" because they know God does. They stop striving to be included because they have been chosen for something greater than belonging. They have been chosen to carry the presence. And the presence is often found in the lonely place. They learn that being set apart means living differently, thinking differently, responding differently. And while the crowd may go one way, they are often called another. Not because they are trying to be different, but because they are listening to a different voice. The loneliness sharpens their hearing. It cultivates dependence. It teaches them that the presence of God is enough even when people are absent. This mark is not always welcomed at first. It stretches the soul. But with time, the chosen begin to treasure it. They realize that this loneliness is not a void. It is an invitation. An invitation into the deep, into the sacred, into the hidden chambers of the King. And those who embrace it will find a depth in God that the crowd will never know. There is a kind of peace that cannot be explained, only experienced. It is not tied to the absence of trouble or the presence of ease. It is not something that fluctuates with the economy, relationships, or external circumstances. This peace is supernatural. It is the mark of the chosen. Those who walk through storms without being shaken, who endure fire without being consumed, who rest when everything around them screams panic. This peace does not originate from within themselves. It is imparted by God. It is divine in nature, unshaken by the temporary, anchored in the eternal. The chosen know what it is to stand in the middle of chaos and still breathe calmly. It is not because they are emotionally numb or blindly optimistic. It is because they have learned to live from a different realm. They draw their peace from the throne room, not from this world. Theirs is a peace that passes understanding because it surpasses logic. It defies explanation. It transcends emotion. It is the peace of those who know who holds them, not just what awaits them. This peace is born in surrender. It does not come from controlling every outcome or securing every detail. The chosen have released the illusion of control and have exchanged it for trust. They no longer strive to figure out every answer. They have chosen to rest in the one who already knows. This peace comes when the heart stops wrestling and starts yielding. It flows like a river from the place of quiet confidence in God's nature, His goodness, His faithfulness, His sovereignty. The chosen are not immune to storms. They feel the wind. They hear the waves. They face the same challenges, losses, and betrayals as others. But what sets them apart is how they respond. When others crumble under pressure, the chosen often remain calm, not because they are stronger, but because they are held. Their peace is not a denial of reality. It is the recognition of a greater reality. They see beyond what is happening and look to who is in control. There is a stillness in the chosen that confuses the world. It is not apathy. It is authority. Peace is a weapon. It is not passive. It is powerful. When the enemy comes to stir up fear, worry, and confusion, the peace of God acts like a shield. It guards their minds and their hearts. It protects them from the mental and emotional spiral that consumes so many. Peace becomes their posture. It is how they fight. Not with noise, but with stillness. Not with panic, but with presence. This peace manifests in their words. They speak life when others speak fear. They declare promises when others declare doom. Their language is seasoned with heaven because their hearts are rooted there. They do not echo the anxiety of the world. They carry the sound of calm. Their counsel brings clarity. Their presence brings comfort. They do not need to solve every problem because they trust the one who holds the solution. The chosen often carry peace into rooms filled with tension. It is not just what they say, but who they are. The peace they carry is tangible. It calms children. It softens hardened hearts. It diffuses strife. This is not human charisma. It is divine atmosphere. They are carriers of a kingdom not of this world. And that kingdom is marked by peace, not as a luxury, but as a signature of the King. Their peace is rooted in perspective. The chosen do not view life through the temporary lens of earthly situations. They see through the eternal lens of purpose and destiny. They know that every trial has an expiration date, but the promises of God endure. They measure time differently. They measure impact differently. They have learned to quiet their souls and trust in the timing of God, in the character of God, and in the plan of God. This peace is not fragile, it is fortified by truth. It has been tested in storms and has emerged unbroken. There is a divine resilience within the chosen that cannot be taught, only forged. It is not natural strength, nor is it stubborn will. It is the kind of endurance that comes from being broken and yet standing, from being crushed and yet continuing, from walking through seasons of unanswered prayers, prolonged battles, and silent heavens and still choosing to believe. The chosen are not spared adversity, they are strengthened through it. Their journey is not free of pressure, but marked by perseverance. They have been through what would have destroyed others, and yet something within them would not let go. This resilience is not flashy, it does not boast. It doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it looks like crawling when walking is no longer possible. Sometimes it looks like worship with trembling hands or whispered prayers through tears. It is quiet but unbreakable. It is the result of choosing to trust when trust no longer makes sense. The chosen have faced the furnace, the valley, the midnight hour, and instead of becoming bitter, they became unshakable. There are scars they carry that no one sees, deep wounds that time did not heal but presence did. Moments when all human support vanished and they found God to be enough, not in theory, but in experience. Their resilience is born of those sacred moments, when they met God in the fire, not after it, when they were sustained not by answers but by presence. They have been refined, not ruined. They have been pressed but not crushed, weakened but not destroyed. Each storm has written something eternal on the inside of them. The chosen do not bounce back, they rise up, and each time they do, they carry more authority, more depth, more tenderness. Their trials have not hardened them, they have softened them toward others. They do not mock weakness, because they've lived through it. They do not judge brokenness because they've been shattered. But what they carry now is holy resolve, a spiritual backbone, a refusal to let go of God, even when nothing makes sense. This is not endurance from grit, it is the strength of grace. Resilience looks like consistency when others are inconsistent. Faithfulness when others give up. It looks like showing up when you're tired, praying when you feel empty, sowing when there is no harvest in sight. The chosen are not moved by what they feel, they are anchored by what they know. They are led by truth, not emotion. Their stability is not rooted in circumstance, it is rooted in covenant. They have made a decision that no matter what happens around them, their posture toward God will not change. Their resilience is not celebrated, but it is noticed by heaven. Angels stand guard around them because their yes has survived storms. Demons tremble at them because they cannot be intimidated into quitting. Their prayers carry weight not because of volume, but because of history. They have prayed through pain, through silence, through heartbreak, and those prayers are filled with oil, oil that only comes from crushing. They don't just pray, they press. They don't just believe, they contend. The chosen have learned the art of standing still. When the enemy pushes, they don't retreat. They have stood long enough to see breakthrough, long enough to see God turn mourning into dancing, ashes into beauty, despair into praise. They know that what is happening around them is never stronger than what God is doing within them. Their resilience is proof that grace is more than a concept. It is a sustaining power, a divine flow that lifts them when strength runs out. And though they may bend, they do not break. Though they may be shaken, they are never uprooted. They carry a different kind of endurance, one that is marked by tears but rooted in joy, one that has walked through fire but smells only of fragrance, one that has survived death seasons and come out with resurrection life. They have faced long nights and still rise with expectation. They do not carry the scent of defeat. They carry the aroma of one who has been with God in the deep places and still emerged with a flame still burning. The chosen carry an awareness of eternity that shapes everything they do. It is not a vague belief in the afterlife or a hope reserved for death. It is a living, breathing consciousness of another realm that governs their daily decisions. They do not see time as others do. They measure success differently. They speak, think, act, and respond from a place that is not bound by the temporary. The unseen is more real to them than what can be touched, and the eternal outweighs the fleeting every time. This awareness does not come through intellect or religious study. It is born in the secret place, forged through surrender, and deepened in divine encounter. It is the result of having seen something, sensed something, heard something that cannot be explained but will never be forgotten. The chosen walk with a sense of destiny, not because they are ambitious, but because they have glimpsed the weight of purpose. They know this life is not all there is, and that truth alters how they live here and now. Because they are aware of eternity, the chosen live with urgency, not anxiety. They are not rushing in fear but moving with precision. They do not waste their moments on what is hollow. They are not consumed by the trivial. There is a divine focus that marks their lives. They do not need to prove themselves or outshine others. They are running a different race. A race not for applause but for impact. Not to be seen but to be faithful. They have learned that what is done in secret echoes in eternity. This eternal lens gives them wisdom in the face of temptation. What others pursue for comfort, pleasure, or convenience, the chosen often lay down. They are not easily enticed by things that sparkle but don't last. They understand the cost of compromise because they see beyond the moment. The fear of the Lord governs their choices, not as a threat but as a holy reverence for the one who called them. Their yes to God is not cheap. It is full of weight, because they understand what is at stake. They invest their lives differently. Their prayers are not just about relief but about alignment. Their giving is not transactional. It is sowing into eternity. They are not obsessed with comfort or position because their hearts are anchored in another realm. They think generationally. They speak with legacy in mind. They are building something that time cannot erode. What others call extreme, they call normal. What others call radical, they call necessary. Because when you see eternity clearly, the cost of obedience makes perfect sense. This awareness makes them deeply compassionate. They look at people not through status or appearance, but through destiny. They see souls. They understand that each person is an eternal being, and this knowledge changes how they speak, how they serve, how they love. They are not trying to impress, they are trying to reach. Their message is not to elevate themselves, but to awaken others to what truly matters. They do not live to be remembered. They live to point others to the Eternal One. They carry a certain stillness in the face of storms, because eternity has taught them that pain has a purpose and suffering has an end. They have learned to interpret trials through an eternal filter. They are not shaken easily because they know this world is not the final chapter. Their hope is not based on outcomes. It is anchored in promises that cannot be broken. They have seen beyond the veil and now live from that place. Because of this, their worship is deeper. Their devotion is stronger. Their obedience is quicker. They are not driven by trends or tossed by opinions. They are rooted in truth. The things of this world grow dim in the light of what they've seen. Eternity is not a concept to them. It is the atmosphere they breathe, the compass that guides them, the fire that refines them, and the goal that sustains them. Beloved, the marks of the chosen are not always visible to the eye, but heaven knows them well. They are hidden signs etched into the spirit, proof that God has laid claim to a life for his glory. These are not badges of pride, but seals of surrender. The chosen are not chosen because they are qualified, but because they have been willing to be set apart, willing to be broken, willing to walk alone, willing to carry peace in storms, resilience in trials, eternity in their gaze, and the fragrance of heaven in their steps. They are not perfect, but they are yielded. They are not many, but they are marked. And if you recognize these signs in your life, this fire that won't go out, this ache for more of him, this call into the deep, then know this: you have not been overlooked, you have been chosen.